Here we go. Today we're going to talk about transforming equations. And what does transforming mean, by the way? Have you guys heard of this word before? Yes, sir. One person knows? Yeah, two? That's it? Okay, go ahead. What do you think? Changing into something else, right? You've seen that movie Transformer, right? Transforms. So why would you want to even change equations? Why not leave them alone? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Many times you want to actually solve for one of the variables. For example, here's a simple example. Well, this is a very simple equation. Would you like to transform this equation if you had this? No, this is very nice because this is what we want. But let's say you had an equation that looked like this. X plus 1 equals to 3. Right? Wouldn't you want to change that to something else? So that we want to transform this equation, don't we? So that what? The variable x is? Yeah, by itself, right? Is there a way to transform this equation? Yeah, we learned this yesterday. Yeah. Subtract 1 from both sides. Easy. And of course, x equals to 2. What about this equation? 2x equals to 4. Yeah. Divide by 2. And of course, you get x equals to 2 again. Notice all these three equations, even though they don't look alike, the solution for all three equations is x equals to 2. So, as I mentioned before, these are called equivalent equations, which means equations that have the same solution. So, I know that we just looked at it yesterday. Now, I want you to write it out. So, when we talk about equivalent equations, it means these are equations, may not look the same, but they all have the same solution, right? All these three equations have solution of 2, right? X equals to 2. So, wait. Next, I want to talk about this rule. If I have an equation A equals to B, is it okay to add both sides by C? So, same number to both sides? Yes, and who remembers this is one of those property of equality because they're equal to each other. Yes, what's the name? It's the addition property of equality is correct. In other words, when you have an equation, you may transform equation by adding same number to both sides. Okay. So this is called the addition property of equality. If you could add same number to both sides, can somebody guess what we could also do? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Sabrina?
Subtract.
You could also subtract. So, if I have A equals to B, if I have a very simple, if I have an equation, I can simply subtract same number from both sides. Anybody want to guess what this property is called? It's again some kind of property of equality. Sorry?
Maybe subtraction.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is subtraction property of equality. By the way, which one do I like better, addition or subtraction? And that's why I even put a heart there and wrote, even highlighted addition, because subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. So really, and in real practice, when we do questions, when we deal with questions, you will find that adding is better than subtracting. It's better to add the opposite than subtract because addition has a nice property called, it has two nice property that subtraction doesn't have. Has the, anybody remember? Yes? Commutative property of addition and also, there's one more property. Yes? Here? Associative property of addition. Right? You could put them in any order you want and you could associate them any way you want for addition. It's not true for subtraction, correct? Alright. Now, can somebody guess then what my next property might be? Property of equality might be? I have addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality. Okay, yes sir. Multiplication property of equality. Can somebody guess what they might say? Anyone? How about how about Kira?
If A equals B, then AC equals AC.
Exactly. You can multiply both sides by the same number like C. And of course, if you get a multiplication, you could also have division. Okay, so you could divide both sides by the same number as well to transform an equation. Of course, you got to say C can't be 0. Right? Which one do I like better, multiplication or division? Multiplication, because division is same as multiplying the reciprocal, not opposite. Multiplying the reciprocal. You guys remember that? Again, multiplication has those two properties, just like addition has commutative and associative property, which is better than division. So that's why I like to multiply rather than divide. Go ahead and write it down, and you'll know what I mean by when we do some examples. Okay, go ahead. I'll wait. So let's do some examples. Example 1. It's a very simple one. X plus 7 equals to negative 9. Of course, a lot of you say, oh, that's simple. What are we going to do to get x by itself? Or transform this equation so that you could figure out the solution for x. Okay, there should be more than 3 people here. Okay, how about Allah? Subtract 7. Yes, that's correct. I subtract 7 from both sides. But do I like subtraction? So what should I do? I could add. I could add negative 7. I know that it's the same thing, but if you just write minus 7 underneath, how do you know whether you're subtracting or it means negative 7? You know what I mean? So I like to add negative 7 to both sides. So when I do, what do I get here? Of course, on the left, you know, x is by itself. Eric, what do we get on the right side? Negative 16. Very simple. By the way, if you have time, right, for these equations, when you solve equations, there's always a way to check, right? How do you check and see if we have the right answer? So if you have time at the end, you should do this every time. James, how would you check it? You substitute it in, exactly. So you go to your original equation and plug it in, place of x, negative 16 in there, and as you can see, it's going to work out to be negative 9, right? Very easy. What property have we just used here to solve this equation? Yes. How about Ale? Definition of subtraction. So if I were to ask from the first step to here, and how do I get addition property of equality is exactly right. Very good. Does that make sense? We good? Is this pretty simple? All right, let's get to the next one. Now, many of you might have noticed, like this section, they like to give you not just x, but they like to give you equations with absolute value of x. That's not so bad, because you just treat absolute value of x as if you have x by itself. You know what I mean? So what do you think? So in other words, you want to get the absolute value of x by itself. That's your goal. Then you could figure out the answer right away. So anybody see? So you could actually think of this as x plus 4 equals to 13, not absolute value of x equals, you know. But what would you do? So it's the same idea. How about Max? What should I do here, sir? To get the absolute value of x by itself, I should exactly add negative 4 to each side, right? And of course, Audrey, when I do this, what do I get? I get 9 on the right side. On the left side, what do I have? On the left side, 0. Yes, plus 4. I mean, 4 plus negative 4 is 0. But what about this absolute value of x? Does that go away? No, you still have. Yeah, not x, but you have absolute value of x. Please don't write x, because we don't have x yet. We have only the absolute value of x, correct? So we're done, right, guys? Not quite. Have we solved for x, or have we solved for absolute value of x so far? Absolute value of x. We need to solve for x. So how do I do that? Okay, some of you. Okay, what should we do? It turns out there are more than one possible solution. Okay, Ria, what do you think? That's exactly right. There are 2 possible numbers you could plug in here, can't you? If x is 9, of course, this will be true, right? What's the absolute value of 9, guys? What's the absolute value of 9? 9. But is that the only case you could do? What, Addison, what do you think? What else? Negative 9 also. So there are 2 possible answers, just like Ria said, right? So you could either write x equals to 9 or x equals to negative 9 like this, or put them into a set notation with the brace, -9, comma 9, like that. Some of you say, well, could we put positive or -9? Yeah, but don't do it that way because people think that's one number. Okay, so I don't want you to get confused, right? Thinking that that's one number because you only see one number. So it's a shortcut of writing -9 or 9, but don't write it as positive or -9, okay? Because number can't be negative or positive at the same time, right? Yes?
Oh, for the answer, can we just put -9 or 9, or do we have to put it in?
Right, so you could either put it this way, or this way. You choose. Kind of know how to do both of them. Okay, may I go to example 3 then? All right. Pretty straightforward, right? So since they were pretty straightforward, why don't you try this yourself? Of course, you may talk to your group if you think, you want to sort of discuss how this one's a little bit different than the other one. Go ahead, everybody try. So, who thinks they know what to do for this one? Who haven't I called today? I haven't called Daniel. What did you do first on this problem, sir? Add -6 to both sides. That's what I will do too, so that you get the absolute value of x by itself, right? Question? Oh, you know what to do next? Okay. So when you do, okay, go ahead, sir. Tell me what to write, Brandon. What do I get if I do this?
X equals -4. Oh, wait, first,
Yeah, the next step will be
the left side would equal to -4.
-4, and the right side will equal to absolute value of x. It doesn't become just x, it becomes an absolute value of x because we haven't done anything with it yet. All right, how many people think they have the answer? X equals to -4 or +4? Raise your hand. How many people say x equals to +4? Oh. How many people say x equals to -4 then? Oh, what should be the answer? By the way, can I rewrite it this way? Right? What property have I just used here? This is a great review. A lot of you guys messed up on this one. Instead of writing -x equals to absolute value of 4, well, -4 equals to absolute value of x, I wrote absolute value of x equals -4. What property have I just used, by the way? It's called I heard it. Yeah, symmetric property of equality is correct. Right? You guys remember that? All right, now, what's then the answer? It's not, Destiny. Undefined. Kind of. Undefined means when you have numbers like a 1 over 0 or a 5 over 0. It's not really undefined. We were looking for solution. No solution is correct. How many people wrote down no solution? How many people remember this from last time? We talked about absolute value. Not all of you. Who can explain why this becomes no solution? Why do we get no solution? Dominic. Exactly right. There's no possible way to get absolute value of some number equal to negative. It's impossible. You could plug in any numbers you want in place of x. What's the absolute value of any number? Always positive. Yes, distance from 0, exactly. So it's always positive, right? Distance can't be negative. You get very good. You remember. Do you guys remember that? So whenever you have absolute value of some number, absolute value of x equals to some number that is negative, guess what? Your solution is no solution. There isn't any. Okay, you can't. There is no such number. Right? Does that make sense? All right, let's move on then. Okay, so far we've only used addition property of equality, right, Noah? Now we're going to deal with the multiplication property of equality. Is that okay? I don't like to divide, and I don't like to subtract, so we could actually simplify these properties just by saying addition property of equality or multiplication property of equality, because the other are shortcuts. So look, I have t over 2 equals to 4.5. All right, by the way, do we like mixed fraction in algebra? Mixed number? No, because mixed numbers are not really useful in algebra. Well, I guess, unless you want to, if somebody said they want things in mixed number. So, at least for when we're solving for equations and things like that, whenever you see mixed numbers, must change into what sort of number? Improper. We like improper. So what's 4.5 as an improper fraction? Yes. 9 over 2 is correct. And of course, what are we going to do to both sides to get the equation? Yes, sir. Multiply both sides by 2 because this is t over 2. It's dividing by 2, right? So it's the same as multiplying by half. So, you multiply by the reciprocal, so it's 2. Would you agree? Does that make sense? So then, right, because this is t over 2, which is same as 1 over 2 times t. So the 2's cancel out. And of course, 2's cancel out on the right side. So what's the answer? Yes, 9. Easy enough? Okay. Everybody see that? If t is being divided by 2, of course you multiply both sides by 2. Very good. All right. Here's example 5. It says absolute value of 7 minus 3 times absolute value of a over 2 is equal to 1. And I put a star on this because it looks kind of complicated, doesn't it? It's got many absolute values and things like that. But turns out it's not that complicated. Anybody see, as you write this down, what should we do first in this problem? One person see it? That's it? 2 people?
I think I'm sorry.
Oh, if people still not done writing? Okay, I'll wait. Jonathan, what do you think, sir? What should I do first?
Then you should do the absolute value of -7.
Yeah, you should deal with the absolute value of -7. But does that, so basically we're following the order of operation, are we not? Why? How is absolute value following the order of operation, dealing with the absolute, yes?
Absolute value counts as a type of grouping.
Yeah, it'd be like a grouping symbol, exactly, right? So what is absolute value of 7, class? You should always simplify that one. It is just simply 7, so look what happens if you just rewrite, as you just simplify, always simplify, right, if you can. If you simplify this just becomes 7 minus 3 times absolute value of a over 2 equals to 1. And dealing with this example, it's a little bit different than the ones we talked about because this is sort of combination of, right? Not only just one step, this is multi-step, right, equation. So, anybody know what to do first? How do I get the, basically we want to transform this equation so that what do you want at the end? At the end you just want absolute value of a, and then you get a, exactly, find it. So what should we do here? Stephanie, what should I do? Add -7 to both sides first is exactly right. So you want to gather all the numbers together on one side, yes?
Don't you have to do order of operation then?
Well, that's when you're simplifying. This here we're solving here. So when you're solving, so you sort of do opposite of order of operation if you think about it. We're not simplifying here. We're solving for absolute value of a. So did you want to then right? So you want to gather all the numbers on one side and then sort of deal with it next.
Oh,
Yeah, don't get that confused with simplification. So to get rid of the 7, of course, we add both sides by -7. I even wrote it as addition. Is that okay? Because I like addition. You had subtraction in the middle. So I wrote 7 plus -3 absolute value of a over 2. And there's a reason why I did that, by the way. You'll see why in a minute. So after we add 7 to both sides, what do we get? I mean, not 7. -7 to both sides. How about Justin?
You multiply each side by
Oh, tell me what to write first. I know that. Very good. But you're telling me you're a step ahead of me. What do I get when I add both sides by -7?
-3 and that's 3 over 2 equals
Exactly right. Do you see why? By the way, sometimes people forget to put that negative. Does anybody see why people forget to put the negative there? Because they don't change this to addition and they just see the 7 minus something, and then as they get rid of the 7, somehow the negative goes away too. Can you do that? No, then you get it wrong. Okay, so that's negative stays with that term. Or if you see that as positive, if you actually rewrite this as addition, you can see that this whole thing is -3 absolute value of a over 2, right? So that's why I like to change everything to addition, because it makes things sort of more clear in terms of whether the term is negative or positive. Does that make sense? Okay, now some of you said, now I know what to do. Anybody see what to do next? Dominic. Multiply both sides by 2. That's what I did. And whoops, I haven't shown that step. Well, I should write it now. Okay, here. I multiply both sides by 2. Here I can write it's 2 over 1. Can I not? Is that okay? Okay, because then 2's cancel out. And of course, you have -3 times absolute value of a equals to -12. As you can see, what do we do next? If you're multiplying, yeah. Can I add 3? That's a good question. Could we add 3 to both sides? The answer is no. We're not subtracting. If you subtract 3, this is -3 times absolute value of a. It's not -3. Yeah, so you have to divide by -3. So if it's multiplying, right, you divide both sides by the same number. Or you could think of this as multiplying both sides by the reciprocal of negative 3, which is 1/3. Isn't that the same thing? So you could divide both sides by negative 3, right? We're using division property of equality now, aren't we? If something is being multiplied, if the variable is being multiplied, how do you undo that? You divide both sides by, right? Negative 3. And of course, what's negative over negative? Positive. So we get absolute value of a equals to positive 4. We like this to be positive, don't we? Then at least we could get the answer. Because if the absolute value came out to be some negative, then you can't. So what's the answer for this here? Go ahead. Uh-huh.
A is equal to 4 or A is equal to negative.
How many people agree that a equals negative 4 or a could be 4? You guys are correct, because remember, absolute value of 4 is of course 4. Absolute value of negative 4 is of course positive 4 also. There are two possible ways to be true. So again, you could write it this way or this way. Should know how to do both, by the way, but you could choose as you write this answer. Any question? Does this make sense? So when the variable is being multiplied by something, of course, you undo that by dividing both sides by that number. Right? Does that make sense? And so that's how we divide by. We don't need to add 3. That will not get rid of that negative 3 multiplying the absolute value of a. Okay, please be careful. Any question? Are we good? All right then. Good.